All right, everybody, away we go. Welcome to today's call. It is Friday, May 25th of 2018, and this is the TRC sales training call, which I'm very excited to do. I had an interesting week where we had our first graduate, so I'm sorry that I wasn't able to host the mastermind yesterday or the campfire yesterday. I understand we had some snafu, so if you're a campfire member, I want you to know that you will have a bonus call next Thursday, and we will proceed the following week with our regular schedule, so you'll have two calls in a row. But in the meantime, I want to get right after this and get started talking a little bit about what I had in mind this morning as I was going through a third showing. And so when somebody's making a big decision, this is a property that's $1.5 million asking price, and they're making a big decision and it's a lifestyle decision. I think what's very important to consider is that you're there to be a resource at that point in time, for sure. Not that you shouldn't always be, but it's very important to be resourceful as people are trying to make a big decision. I think that's really important for you to understand. And so when you go in, you have to let people have their process, let them have their space. And in this case, the gentleman and his wife are very particular about trying to make some measurements and really seeing how to make the property work for them, because it's a very particularly designed property and there needs to be some adjustments. And that's just a fact of life. So everybody needs to have that process. So as they go through it, you can be resourceful in a lot of ways, but one is something that you should train yourself to be good at, and that is the vision for how spaces are laid out. If you've never been with a stager before or hung around with a stager, or it's not something that comes naturally to you, and even if it does, I recommend taking a course in staging. I think this is one of the parts that I overlooked in my career pretty often early on because I took a very transactional approach to it. My thought was, look, once somebody's in there, you can have some suggestions, but really just let them have their process. But most people don't have a vision. They don't. It's just a fact of life. And I think what you have to do is you have to help them along with suggestions. And one of the ways to do that is when you have a listing, or you're doing an open house, or you're seeing properties with buyers, or you're going on broker tours. Imagine, what would you do? That's a good start, right? What would you do with the space if it were your house? Because we all have an opinion. And I think when you look at spaces, it's okay to give them your opinion because that provokes thought. And then very quickly, oh yeah, that's not my style. Oh, okay. What is your style? And then you listen and you respond that way. But there's nothing wrong with having a conversation about spaces. Again, most people do not have a vision, so you want to become very resourceful in what it is that you're doing with them. So today, one of the problems was there's a big formal room, and that room really lives much more, as he referred to it, these were his words, like a parlor. And that was a fair assessment. It is. It was a greeting place. It's a parlor. It's not that cozy TV room, because the way that my client has it set up is very different. My client has it set up so that the TV room, where that should be, is much more of a formal dining area. So my suggestion was, well, look, this is nice and off the kitchen. Why not put a more casual dining table here, and at the far end of it, the nice cozy couches, so everything flows. It opens up to the porch. Boom! We had a potential solution for how that house could work. And it brought everybody's shoulders down, and it made everybody feel a little bit more like, hey, yeah, this could work. So I think you have to be able to lean in those moments to be resourceful. The second beat was outside. When, even with money, and this would be a cash offer, and people with money, it's not just because they have the money that all of a sudden everything becomes easy. Well, they have the money so they can take the trees down. Yeah, but it's aggravation. And it's not what they want. So you have to be there and be resourceful. Say, well, look, do you have somebody that could help you with that? If not, I have an army. That's the line that I always use. I have an army of contractors, and everybody can come in there and, swiftly move, because if you want to take advantage of the summer, I'll be on the phone with them as soon as we could come to an agreement. And I think that's the whole thing that you go through here is, great, what do you want? Well, and people will sell themselves at that point. Well, it's pretty easy. I've already done the homework, and I see that I could take these trees down with no problem, but it's just that I have to go through that process. It's not a small job. I said, no, but it is a small job for a guy that I know, because that's what he does. And his name is X, and Peter will come over with his machines, and they'll rip these things out in an afternoon, and then the next guy will come in, and Chris is good at foundational landscaping, and boom, I'll have it done for you. If resourceful is, if my resources are something that are going to help solve your problem. And he appreciated that, even though he's working with another agent who also appreciates that, that because she's not doing too well after, surgery and et cetera. So, again, you want to be that resourceful person. It's not selling anything. Right? I think everybody's always trying to sell something. The property itself and the location will, to a certain extent, sell itself to a high level of interest. But from there, it's the resourcefulness to bring it to a conclusion. I think that's the key point here. You want to make sure that your resourcefulness is giving them all the ammunition they need. Now, the last beat of this anecdote that I want to give you is that Laura and I are working on her becoming much more involved in these situations. So as my mastermind members know, I was away this week for graduation with Stephanie. And so when I was gone, Laura was able to step in and elevate what she's used to doing by answering questions. Now, she's always done it as an inside sales agent and done it highly effectively. But I taught her something. I said, look, when you're in the heat of the moment here, what's most important is the speed with which you get those answers. Do not be slow. And if you don't have a specific answer, say, I have answers to X and Y. I don't have Z yet. I expect it by then. People love that. They just love that you are trying to dig in and be their resource and you're hustling the information that they want. It's a really important thing to do. Okay. So let's go back to this. Number one. You are a resource, whether it's the first showing or like I had today, the third. You are a resource gathering information or giving them vision on how to make this property their own. Take a staging course. Believe me, it'll be well worth your while. And don't say, oh, I got that covered. Oh, I'm great at that. It's from the perspective of listening first to the buyer and then making decisions. Yes, it's okay to start with you. Okay. The next beat after that is to really have the resources too, not just be resourceful yourself, but to have those resources ready. Do you know contractors or are you farming it off just generally? Oh, I think I know a guy. Don't do that. Be the number one resource. You have to really be prepared to have all these people. And across America and Canada, where most of my coaching clients are, product is getting older. Unless you live in a planned development area where there's still a lot of land, like a Florida, for example, and there's new models going up. In New England, everything's old. In fact, I'm ready to open up my remodeling arm. I'm already talking to the bank about a credit line so that we can go in there and we can remodel. Everything's old. So you need to have that construction attitude and that staging attitude. It's a vision. You're trying to bring old product up to what people need it to be, whether you're involved like that, like I just said, or not. You're just being that go-to. You are a broker. You are an agent. You are a go-between. That's a resource, okay? And then ultimately always be understanding that it's the speed with which you respond to people along this entire funnel of selling a property. People want to know what they want to know when they want to know it. I'll say it again. People want to know what they want to know when they want to know it. So you have to be speedy in that. And remember, especially when you're getting all the way down there, this is a hot prospect working with another agent who's a friend of mine, and we were in there covering for her, and we have to be resourceful for both of us. So it's okay to lean in and solve the problem when you trust each other like that, right? That's what another professional does. And Priscilla's a super professional. She would never be affronted by me trying to be resourceful to solve this. So that's what professionals do. They get better and they move swiftly, okay? I just want to share that anecdote with you. Now, last week, I was not able to broadcast live. So what I'm looking for this week is I am looking for people to volunteer, okay? So I have a couple of my gals in here from Michigan. I'd like to hear from you both if you're in here today. And Kyle Jones, you may have some people from your team in there. So let's jump on this and get her going. And I don't know who I have from Cantu Group, if I have Patrick or I have some of his agents. He's seen a little bit of a skinny attendance early on here. So let's try to get everybody, rolling in here, okay? So good. We check. We two ways here? We good? Yeah? Come on, guys. Okay.
Yep.
All right, good. So how about my ladies from Michigan, Leslie and Lisa? Do I have you both here today?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. So Leslie, you there?
Leslie.
Okay, somebody's got a little bit of a loud background. You can *6 me if it's loud in the background. Yeah. Hang on. I got it. Okay. So Leslie, go ahead. Give me a little bit of an update on how you've been doing. You've been learning a lot lately, and I don't want to leave you hanging in that learning process. So tell me how you're doing with everything.
taking a little break from it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about who are you whom, is that right? To whom are you cold calling?
Expired listing.
Okay. And what is it that you hate about them? Because to me, there's probably something wrong with what you're saying that's not congruent with a concierge easy tone, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
I call people, if they've changed their phone numbers or they, tell me to stop calling them, it's the wrong number, or they say, I've gotten 100 calls and I just am dreading it, and so I'm allowing myself to take a little break.
Okay, what part of it are you dreading? Let's deal with it. Forget about the break. Let's talk about what the problem is, right? Because the problem number one...
Every part.
Okay, hold on. All right, that's too global. So you can't solve something when you're too global, right? So the first part is that we're diving into a shark tank when we first call an expired that just comes on. And that does take a certain intestinal fortitude that Paul Mihalowicz may have, but you may not, right? So let's just talk about that first. It is a very difficult place to be. I personally do not enjoy that either, okay? If that makes you feel better, I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy being one of the many. I've always wanted to be something that was very unique and individual, and that takes some guts to try to define that. So I understand how difficult it is for you. So I want you to first hear my empathy that I'm with you. So what I did was, rather than say I'm taking a break, because there's kind of no such thing, you can't just take a break from something that doesn't work out. You have to come back and resolve it, because it's just a natural part of our business. Things that are FSBO, they don't like us because they think we're too expensive or they think they're smarter than us, right? Fact of life. Next thing is, there's a lot of problems in our industry where people expire, so somebody's going to get them. Somebody that steps in, leans in, and does what they're supposed to do is going to get them. So that person that perseveres is going to win. And then, of course, probates, where something is really difficult, where somebody's passed. They're all emotional situations, every single one of them. I wish I could tell you all that every day I woke up, it's a bucket of rainbows and unicorns dealing with my clients. It's not. They are all emotionally attached to their property to one degree or another. And many of them feel like...
You keep breaking up.
Hang on. Okay, hang on. You can't hear me? Can everybody hear me?
You're just going in and out.
All right, hold on. We better check the internet connection here. Let's try something else. Bear with me. I will try to dial in on Skype. Is that true for everybody? Same for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, hang on. Let's try it. Let's see if Skype does any better. And if not, I may have to just try a better internet connection. I have 2 internet connections, so we'll see what's what. Leslie, are you following me, yo? Are you following the gist of what I'm saying?
Are you asking me, Leslie?
You, Leslie, you're in the hot seat. You're the only one in the hot seat.
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay, so I want you to go back and you tell me, because I can hear you just fine. So you tell me what you think. I want to hear what you're saying when you get in there.
Well, I don't know if I can be in the hot seat about this right now.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. What is it that you would say to an expired? What would you say?
Well, I mean, I have breaking up.
Yeah. Go ahead. I can hear her, though. As long as we can hear her. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just doing my script that I don't know. I'm taking a break from it.
Okay, we'll give Leslie, you can't just bail out on the whole thing. Just tell me what's incongruent. What's wrong? What's wrong? What doesn't work for you? Is it the rejection? Let's skip the script. Are you being rejected too much on the phone?
If I even get anybody, half the time,
okay,
the list that I'm calling from, which is Vulcan 7.
Yep.
I mean, I've changed the numbers. I spent a lot of time and don't even get through anything.
Yep.
And if it says do not, DNS or whatever that is, I don't know whether, sometimes they leave a message. I very seldomly connect with anybody anyway.
Okay, so it's very frustrating to not get somebody on the phone. Okay, so let's go to plan B. If you take a break from everything that's a cold call, all of it, what's on the top of your list? If you take a break from that, I'll play. Go to the next thing. What's on the list for you?
Well, I'm starting to connect with and writing letters to seniors who have owned their homes for 30 years or longer.
Yep.
That are near me in my community. I'm starting,
Yep.
in my neighborhood because I partner with a gal who's
welcome to the conference.
In.
Please enter the conference ID followed by the pound key.
Hang on one second. Let me just switch lines here.
Are you there?
Yep, hang on.
So I partner with a gal.
Sorry, 87593. This is not valid conference ID.
Hang on.
Please enter the conference ID followed by the pound key.
Hang on.
Hello?
Yes, hang on.
Thank you. Moderator ID accepted. All guests are currently unmuted. To mute all guests, press pound. For help with host options, press *0. You will now be connected with the conference.
Okay, let's see if this line works any better. And if not, I'm going to have to 86 the other thing. Hang on. Okay, you guys hear me? We good?
Yep, much better.
Okay, good. So that's a Skype line. All right, so go ahead. So let's get back into this. You're going to write letters to seniors, and you're going to talk to seniors. You're going to try to solve their problem, okay? So I'm good with that.
Then it'll be a warm follow-up, I mean, I can go knock on the door, or I have phone numbers, the list, and then it'll at least be kind of warm, and it's, I'm different than just everybody else because I work with that group, and I have this more solution thing.
Yep.
Working with my organizer friends.
Okay, good. Where are they?
I'm trying to get warm leads
Yep.
instead of freezing cold leads.
Okay. Well, where are the warm leads going to come from? Tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about the lead source first.
Well, following up after I send out the letter.
Okay.
To the seniors.
Okay. So what makes that warmer, just out of curiosity, what makes that warmer than an expired lead to you?
Because I've sent them a letter and a flyer with my picture on it.
Okay.
And
Good.
they live in my neighborhood. They live really close to me. I mean, I'm going literally like within a mile from my house.
Yep, cool. Okay, good. So we got a couple things. Geographically speaking, you're more comfortable. They're right there, right? So that's one thing. That's good news. And secondarily, I think it's more the avatar. I don't think it's warm or cold. I think they're both as cold as warm, or however you want to describe them. There's no difference because neither one of them know you. Fair enough?
Yep.
Okay. And so
But they're not being hounded by 100 phone calls.
Okay, but they're also not as clearly motivated. See, the reason why expireds, FSBOs, probates are being hounded by a lot of people is because there is something there as far as intent to sell. So what I'm asking you is, as you move off into, guys, I have no problem with what you're doing, but now it's just a matter of, as salespeople building a funnel, it takes time to build the good one. The right one. The right one is where you have a very steady flow of a niche or people that know you, especially that are referring you, where they're coming in smoothly and you're putting them into the database, you're being insightful, helpful, concierge, and they're moving up the ladder and they're converting, right? So I have no problem with that,
Right.
But it takes a lot of time to build that in most circumstances, right? So the mix between, let's just say, when Paul first came back to me and he asked me to do a meeting with you all, what did he ask me for? Hey, can you do a quick call with us to talk about how to make money by the weekend? And I gave you all a very clear answer. Absolutely. Paul has this huge swath of listings that are ready to be opened up as retail storefronts every weekend. How many people have them signed up? And Lisa, I think, went out and opened them up. I think you might have gone out and opened them up. So, there are things that will be longer in building all of this and then shorter in building all of this, right? So the reason why there are a lot of people calling expireds, FSBOs, and probates is because there is a definite motivation in all of those categories. To a certain extent, we're closer to a hotter situation. It is not easier. Okay. What you're doing is easier but takes longer. So you have to understand the opportunity cost. One is not necessarily better than the other. In the long run, it's most definitely a combination of the two, right?
Yep.
So now go back to whom you are going to be sending these letters. How will you find out who they are?
I have a list from a list source that we have, and I put in people within a certain distance from my home.
Yep.
Who've lived in their home, the length of residence, they lived in their home for 30 or more years.
Yep.
Old people.
Okay, good. All right, so now...
And there are lots of them.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. So now, what is it that you're going to send them? What's most relevant? Well, let's back into this a little bit because it's an important conversation. Knowing the avatar and delivering something to them that's insightful and helpful in the context of real estate, what is that in your mind's eye?
Well, my girlfriend and I work with older people, and we help them sort through all their stuff that they have collected for 40 years in that house.
Okay.
And we also work with their, adult children, which is someone like me.
Okay.
So that's something that we've done and I have experience doing, and so that's a big part of it.
Okay,
that
good.
we do everything. We'll come in,
Yeah.
soup to nuts.
Okay. When did you do that?
I've been doing that for the last couple of years.
Okay. How many times a year do you do that?
Well, probably like 5 times.
Okay. So you've done it 5
And
times.
She does it. My colleague does it. Has been doing it for 15 years.
Yep. And does she have a business that solicits that kind of business somehow? Does she market that? How does she get into that lane?
No, she started like 20 years ago when she left advertising. She manages households for wealthy people, and it's all word of mouth. She's very busy.
Okay. All right. So, now it's word of mouth. It wasn't in the beginning, but now it is, right? So was it in the context of somebody's moving, or was it in advance of knowing somebody was going to move? That's the key question right there as we choose avatar.
Well, some of it was when I was sending out letters as an investor to, distressed homes. So a lot of distressed homes were people who are older who've been in the home and unable to keep up with it. So it necessarily, there was a large percentage of, older people in those homes that I was targeting, and that was mostly mail at that time, direct mail.
Okay, good. And what did it say? That was your investor cap, so tell me what it said.
Oh, it said what most of the letters say, that I'm an investor, I'm interested in buying their house. If you don't want to, list it, I can come in and you just take whatever you want and leave the rest, and I take care of the rest.
Okay.
And that's appealing for a lot of people who act in.
Okay, good. All right. Why not just break out that same letter, but also add to it a menu of services, right? See, the whole sale here is trying to position ourselves as somebody who really adds value at that particular moment in time. And that's where I started this call today. When you're on a second or third showing, the value added is becoming very clearly specific. What is it that's stressing you out about potentially making an offer because you foresee a challenge after you make that? What is that? In this case, it's, you can see the atrophy on the physical property. I mean, if you're going to target your own geography, I'd make a case that you're almost better off just, identifying the avatar. Who is elderly and whose property looks like it's beginning to depreciate beyond something that's reasonable. It looks like it's becoming a distress or a problem. Now, we know in the past from training you before that it's always a double-edged sword when we're wearing that investor hat versus that person who's coming in to be resourceful. So that's why I'm referencing the menu of services. Why? Because this is the reality of business these days. Especially for me, I'm actually going to meet with my banker to talk about setting up a whole remodeling arm for the business because I know what needs to be remodeled and I can manage it efficiently, and we do it anyway for a lot of our clients. but we have to always pawn it off. Just give it to us. We'll take care of it. It's cost plus our fee, right? So we live in this world where I think your old skill set as an investor parlays nicely into this. Look, if you just don't want to deal with any of it, including me managing it or telling you what to do and helping you move, great. I'll get my investors to come in here and get you a cash offer. Otherwise, we'll have something, something different where we can advise you and you're willing to spend the money to bring it up to at least, what par would be without doing everything. We'll price things out, but we'll fix it up. So I think you have a very, very unique lane to be in that can be very physical because I know you by now. I don't think you're congruent with any kind of cold calling unless you really feel very genuinely attached to the fact that you can help them. Is that a fair statement I'm making?
Yeah, I can't handle it.
Okay, so
plain and simple.
Good. So you're admitting it. So before you go spinning out of the business, presuming that's it, you have a sit down with Paul and say, I just can't be in this lane in this business. It doesn't work for me. So if I'm going to be in this retail side of this business, I need to stake my claim, I need to pick a lane, and I need to stay in that lane. And then you're going to have to be patient with it yourself, right? Because it's not going to just magically yield fruit. It comes dressed in overalls and looks like work, but it's a good lane because it is a senior specialist lane. And as the population ages and turns over, they're always there in that lane. And if that's the one you like, and if that's the one you feel most comfortable in, then you need to actually define your entire business in real estate around it, Leslie. I'm not saying that you wouldn't do other things like a friend comes along or you're doing an open house and you pick up a buyer. But when it comes to being a salesperson who brings predictability and consistency, we have to stake a claim and define ourselves. And once we define ourselves and what we're comfortable doing and what we like doing, now we can stay in that lane. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's what it's coming down to because I joined an older women's spirituality group at a church and I hang out with them. We went to the Art Institute and they were asking me how my business was going. I'm handing out my card in that. I volunteered for a senior center here in Birmingham to help raise donations for a fund. So I'm getting the word out and doing things that way because my cold calling expired.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like that's a problem with cold calling and Paul? Are you worried about that? Are you worried that Paul will be upset about that? How do you feel about all that?
No, he has said, you need to do what works for you. If you don't want to do that, don't do it. No, He's fine with it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's what works for him, or he doesn't do the calling. He has other people do it.
Yeah, correct.
Pretty much. I don't know. But it doesn't even matter.
Thank you.
It doesn't even matter. What matters is
what matters to you.
That works for other people, cool. But it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I'm finding it debilitating.
You finding it what?
Debilitating.
Absolutely. You can hear it in your voice. You're exasperated. So gear shift fast. But it's okay because the good news is the guy that you're hanging your license with and the guy that's helping coach his people, we're good with that. I have no problem with that. I just didn't want you to misunderstand why that Shark Tank is incongruent for you. See, there's a lot of people that don't mind the Shark Tank, right? But it's a tough place to make a living. There's no doubt about it. Getting on that phone and believing that early on you have to dive in there and have this, skill set. I think there are people that make a living doing it. I think life's too short to do it that way. So what I do is something completely different. We lead with content. We lead with sharing. We'll give those people the information that we think is helpful to them. Win, lose, or draw, right? So meaning they'll either be interested in doing business with us or they won't. And that's okay with me either way. In fact, Leslie, I don't like that first call. And we don't spend a lot of resources with money, time, and people trying to get somebody on the phone the minute they expire. We think it's barbaric, right? So I'm with you. But what I did was I didn't completely abandon it. I said, well, there will be a lot of people who actually take a heartbeat. They'll be the ones that are typically yelling at everybody, go leave me alone. I will have sent something to them that I believe is wildly helpful in their situation. And we let them breathe on that for a little bit. And then we come back around and say, hey, just trying to see if you got that information. And it was helpful now that all the lunatics have stopped calling you. See, so I just wanted you to see whether it is gone for your life as it expires forever or not. What about all those properties that have expired months ago that already went through that stage and the owner told them to leave them alone, went away, and maybe is upset thinking they can't do it? I'd make an argument that there's a whole bunch of people that do that, right? So whether
that's who I was calling anyway. I'm not calling the ones that just immediately expired. I gave up on that a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I call them the last, I don't know, since like November 1st to a couple months ago, and I focus on that. And so I agree. Then there are people who I will drop things off just to, and I'll do that at FISBOs as well, and just drop off a packet. I haven't had any success with that, but I'm just trying some different things.
Yeah, sure. I like the senior.
Hey, Leslie, this is Paul. Can I make a comment here?
Absolutely, Paul. Fire away.
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Leslie. So I don't describe everything that I do every day, but I prospect from 1 or 2 hours a day, and over half of them I get the appointments from, not the hot ones necessarily, but the old, 6 months up to 2 years old. So that puts things in perspective for you.
You have found what works for you, which is awesome, and I'm in the process, that's how I feel. I'm in the process of figuring out what works for me.
Yeah.
And you've been very supportive. You're like, you don't want to call? Don't call.
Yeah.
No. Do what's good for you, what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
That's it, Danny.
Yeah, no, Paul, I think that's a good point, though. I mean, it's again, we have a strange business here where there are actually, here's the irony. There's too many choices, right? That's a problem. I, for a long time, did extremely well, Leslie, without ever paying attention to expired listings. Ever. Okay? Now, I think I made a mistake because I think if I had seen from a different perspective that I see now, here's what I'll leave you with. I would say this, that no matter what the orientation of the seller, okay, no matter the orientation, since you brought up sellers and I'm dealing with that, meaning they're FISBO, expired, probate, senior, it doesn't matter. There's all a motivation to move. So I've seen people pick a lane, be very specific about that lane, and they end up really dominating it, whether it's any of those lanes. I knew somebody that I worked with at Realty Executives. They had gone all in on every senior classing and, the National Association classes that give you credit for, being a senior specialist. I'd seen them go so deep up that lane that they really knew their clientele so well, and then within that community, they became the trusted advisor at that lane. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I think you take those same skill sets that Paul was just talking about. You're still going to be required to prospect, and prospect means a lot of things to me. It can mean door knocking, cold calling, warm calling, referral-based marketing because you work with attorneys that work with seniors, probate, et cetera. All of that stuff that evolves and revolves around seniors, you become completely indulgent in. I think that's good. But the skill set still remains the same. The act of creating a prospect is the act of taking a contact and turning them into somebody who at least first starts to listen to you. And then Paul will teach you all about, that concept that he and I talk about all the time, that nurturing process that happens next. So it's the concept of who will come off of the senior sideline as just a general global contact into your sense of database, whether it's wire racks or not, and what value adds are you adding? That's why I asked you, have you done this before? Great. What did you do? Have you ever made a list of the things that you do? Because you should be handing that marketing piece to them. Hey, I'm Leslie. I live in the neighborhood. I have experience working with seniors. Whether you're thinking about selling now or later, here's a list of services that we do to help seniors downsize. This is what we do. So I think that whole concept of prospecting, by the way, if it's, my daughter takes care of that, wonderful. What's her address? How do I get this to her? Because I'd like to give it to her while she's in Florida. Oh, perfect. Even better. Now that she's out of state, I can really help her and you because I can be her proxy whenever you need anything. So now we've created this act of, making this person become a prospect in our world. So I still think that's the most important. Let's not look at Don't keep going back to Paul and what works for Paul as far as the lane for expireds. But you can't throw away the baby with the bathwater. The act of creating a prospect and nurturing, which is a powerful word for you, nurturing them until the point that they're ready. That's why I said it takes patience. If you really want to build a proper book of business in the service industry, you have to be willing to service your prospects before they can ever become your client. And sometimes that just takes a long time because the decision to sell could be only a couple times in a lifetime. And especially with seniors, it's a harrowing moment in time because they're really making a lifestyle change. So I think I just want to, not that you don't know what I'm telling you, but I just want you to step back while you're stepping back from expireds and say, okay, these seniors resonate with me, but I do understand what Danny's saying. It's still the same business model where I go and I have to get leads who are seniors in the geography where I'm comfortable. And I need to make that introduction as aggressively, here's the key point for you, as aggressively as it takes to do it. So when Paul steps in, he says, hey, you probably don't know what I do, but I get on the phone and I prospect for 2 hours. Okay. That's still going to be Leslie prospecting, which for you could mean writing a good content letter that offers the menu of services, following up with either a phone call to make sure they received it, got it, or stopping by, knocking on the door and saying, hey, it's me, I sent you this package. But I think the key point is, what is the content that you're delivering that is helpful to them in their situation? And that goes for anybody. That goes for expireds, FSBOs, probates, or seniors, or whatever else you all can dream up as a lane to be in. So Leslie, I think the next thing is, whatever you would say to them in its most perfect form, sit at a coffee shop, look at what you already have for materials, look at what's missing, edit them, make them into a pretty deliverable that you can mail, drop off, email, whatever form you can get it to them to begin the conversation, which is an act of prospecting the minute they respond and say, yeah, that's helpful and it's okay. Cool?
I have a brochure and a one-page flyer, and so that's what I send, plus a letter.
Okay.
With my signature and usually a note.
Is it the best it could be at the moment to transfer to them, even without you there, exactly who you are and what you do? Is it the best it could be?
If you want to edit it for me and
I
give
do.
me feedback, that'd be awesome.
I do. Send it to me, and then we'll share it with the group. I think it's a great exercise. Here's why. A lot of people, this is why it's always tough on a sales training call to not deal with some marketing. I think the biggest problem as a coach that I come across is that I see a tremendous amount of salespeople walking in underprepared. And when I say walking in, the concept of walking into work every day and not understanding your own value clearly enough to get excited about it and get behind it. I'm good with any lane that you want to pick, my dear. I was only pushing you because it sounded like you were just exasperated about the entire business, when the truth is you have a wonderful lane that you're going to be in. I don't want you to get exasperated in that one now that you've made that clear decision. I like seniors. Say it out loud. I like seniors, right? Over and over and over, because now your brain...
I like seniors.
There you go. Because now your brain will be resourceful. Now your brain will be subconsciously programmed to say, I like seniors. Be careful of saying, I don't like expireds, FSBOs. Be careful of that. Just leave them over there. It's not about rejecting what we don't like. It's much more about deciding what we do. Because we don't want any negative space in there, because we're trying to program the subconscious to be resourceful. Now, I like seniors. How can I best help a senior who's probably going to be downsizing? That's the next big question and subject that we ask ourselves. Right? Because now you want to take your resources and make them the best and easiest to understand. So imagine yourself sitting across from a senior, and you know that their anxiety is sky high. You know that they're worried about spending money. You know your avatar, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
It's my mother.
It's your what?
And all her friends.
Say it again. It's my what?
It's my mother and all of her friends.
Bravo.
My mother and all of her friends.
Bravo. Bravo. I love it, because that's extremely specific. right? So now you have a real audience in your head. And now you imagine sitting across from your mother. See, your marketing is only a manifestation and a simplification of what you would say if you were face to face with your mother and all of her friends as they were downsizing. You need to imagine yourself sitting in a senior center where you've booked a time and you've said to your mother, I'm going to invite all your friends, we're going to have a cup of tea, and I'm going to stand in front of you all and talk about my 6 steps to being prepared to downsize, to being prepared to sell the family asset. Right? I'm going to teach you how to do that in the most stress-free way. You have to imagine yourself as if you are already that expert with the audience of your mother and all her friends, and that you are standing there giving that. But now, as your coach, to help you be clear so that everybody could get up off of their seat and say, wow, that was very clear. And they're all walking up and they're grabbing your infographic and your further descriptive brochure so that they have a cheat sheet to say, you know what? I really appreciated that. It's going to take me about 12 months to do all this. But what was that first step again? Oh, good. I can read it off of this infographic and it has your name at the bottom. Bravo. See, you have to really use that Maxwell Maltz new psycho-cybernetics, acting as if you are already there, being successful, presenting your unique value to these gals. And it's only for the purpose in the beginning of creating a prospect who, you know what, Mom? Sally came up to me. Out of the 200 women that were in the room, Sally came up to me, and I was able to then go sit with Sally at her house and get her moving in the right direction. So now, once a month, I say hello to Sally and see how it's going. That's the act of prospecting. See, prospecting oftentimes has this ugly word because we believe it means cold calling. I don't think it believes that at all anymore. I think it's just the major steps of creating a book of business. That's what it is, right? Cool.
I just would rather do it kind of on a more personal level. And it's just taken a while to sort it through. I've tried this. I've tried, a number of things. And I just have had to sort through it a bit. And then now that I've taken a break, I was doing the calling again. And I think it'll just be a hybrid. I'm going to do a number of different things. All right. And I think that's what's going to work for me.
Oh, well, be careful of that. I'm not going to let you off the hook on that last comment, okay? You're not going to try a number of things that aren't in order. You could try a number of things that actually work, not work for you, that actually work, okay? If you've made this design, you have to be strategic. You understand where I'm coming from? My recommendation, listen to it or not, blowing through my stop signs is a dangerous thing, right? Because I've already been there. Map out what works. Okay? So in other words, you've been through this with women before. Map out what worked, even if it was with one person. That's your prototype strategy. You follow me?
Can you describe that a little bit?
Absolutely. I could describe it.
Well, I'm seeing your mind map kind of thing, just to map that out. Is that what you're saying?
That's precisely what I'm saying. If you had an infographic, it's a 1-page, and you could chunk it up on how you take a senior through the process in 5 to 6 easy steps. That's what I'm saying. We've done it in this group at the mastermind level with all sorts of people. Lee Stillwell took the probate thing and we went through the same process, he and I talking about it, and he came up, Lee, I know you're on here. He came up with an X number of steps that he had, I don't know what it was, 10 or 11 steps in for probates. And now he's in that lane and he's becoming very successful in that lane. But it started with him not saying, I'm going to try this or that or this. It was a strategic mind map that he started with. Lee, Robin, is that you? One of you there? I know they're on the line, but I don't know. He must have me muted. So, but are you following me?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess what I was saying is I go to this church group. That's one thing that I do. I am volunteering at the senior center. That's one more thing that I do. That's more what I was saying.
Okay,
but
good.
I think it's an excellent idea and then I'm doing the marketing letter and then following up. I think that's an excellent idea to do an infographic specific about this specific process, which is what would be offering to whomever, no matter where I met them.
That's exactly right. Bravo. You got there. You got there. See, you have to be in the box with me and sweat a little bit, all right? That's the point, is that everything that you mentioned, those three places, is nothing more than the venue. That's the venue, right? That's all that is. But every time you go in, you're giving your speech, the same speech, in all three venues. I'm not saying it doesn't change a little bit, but you don't want to make it up. See, I think a lot of people think that people that are professional at something make it up, that they're just naturally talented. I'm reading a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. That's just not true. It's the people that repeat the basics over and over and over and over that make little tiny smaller distinctions whereby they're able to simplify it if they're good speakers, if they have a strategy. See, oftentimes, have you ever heard a genius try to give a speech? Oftentimes it's disastrous because the genius can't go down into the micro levels of understanding something and then easily chunk it back up to teach the novice. So what I'm trying to stop you from doing is thinking that, hey, at a micro level, I'm down here and I know nope. You have to pretend that that gal, your mother's friend, hears this for the first time and she needs to know the pecking order of how to downsize. The very first time. It's the 5th grade level. That's why people love infographics. Oh, just give me the easy button. My life is hard enough. I'm exasperated enough about downsizing. Will you just give me something that's easy? I can't think of anything that's more easy than a pictorial description of a process. So that almost becomes your business card. Not almost does, it becomes. So now you walk into those three venues.
Yeah, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, well, you come into those three venues now with the very stack of infographics and you can pass them out. But guess what they have at the bottom? Your business card information. So now instead of just a flat business card with no info, we have an infographic explaining senior downsizing and they all get to take one of those homes. One of them home, right? It's exciting. You should be excited about that. But your number one course is to sit down with Paul, talk about the steps, because there are universal steps, obviously, to selling a property. The same thing Paul's going to explain to an expired that he does with his 7 steps, you're going to end up explaining something extremely similar to somebody who's senior downsizing. Ultimately, what's different is the human being that we're pursuing the conversation with. And that is the only thing where what works for Paul doesn't work for Leslie, right? Paul feels comfortable at expireds. He doesn't feel comfortable at seniors. You do. I'm not saying that for Paul. Paul might like them both. But I'm just saying you get the point, right? That's where we allow for, as individual agents, what do we like? Do you like entry-level buyers, first-time home buyers? Do you like move-up? Do you like luxury? Do you like ultra-luxury? Whatever you like, you have to make that decision first, then stop and think about the conversation as if it's already happening. Why would that avatar choose to do business with you above and beyond all other options, including doing nothing at all? Because you are a professional with a strategy that you were able to articulate clearly to them. Now, that's at least how we don't become the problem. You follow me? You have to do that bare minimum so you're not the problem. You with me?
Got it.
And it's as important for you and your exasperation as it is for them and their understanding. I'll say that again. What I'm pushing you to understand here today is as important to avoid you being exasperated, okay, than it is, or as it is, them understanding it. I'm trying to walk away with a dual victory. Got it?
Got it.
Cool. Okay. Anybody have a comment on that? Anybody else want to talk about that in particular? Or go on to another subject? I'll take something, Patrick. I'm guessing that's you out there in Seattle. I've got that mic muted. It was a little noisy. But I'll take anybody else next. Who's next?
I was going to kind of revisit the DPPO 20.
Yep, go.
And kind of just ask you and kind of ask people in the group who are actually using it. I'd love to hear from anybody who maybe has a part-time job or a full-time job on the side, and they're also doing real real estate, how you kind of keep your real estate approach real organized and keep working on each aspect of it on a daily basis. That's something I'm trying to, because I've got a lot of people on my team who are making money doing jobs on the side. And so I think for those people especially, the DPPO 20 is huge because you don't have as much time. So you've got to be very methodical about how you use that time. Danny, do you have anybody on your team right now who's working part-time or working full-time and doing real estate on the side? And, are they kind of time blocking, I'm going to work on my marketing, I'm going to work on my database, I'm going to work on my presentations, that kind of stuff?
To go more to the part-timers, I'd say Eugene, Steve, myself, John are full-time. I would say that the next boarder, somebody who borders on the next level would be Kate, because Kate has been at times full-time, and I think she would tell you she's full-time, but she's also a mommy of 2 little babies that are home, most of the day. So I think by definition, that's my next best example of somebody who would love to spend more time on her business, but there's just too much of a demand on time. So I don't know if Kate's on the call today. She usually is, but she might be in one of those situations with the kids, where I think what's important to understand, Pat, is that I think that she probably doesn't do that enough, right? And that's what we're working on with everybody that comes into that is first, I think that North Star, as I've been calling it all week, has to be defined. Where is that North Star? And that North Star is what they want, right? If that's not very clear to them, I think that's the thing, that's the horse that leads the cart. If I say I'm going to be part-time and that's my reality, I think that I've become as a CEO of a budding, company that wants to grow as large as it can. I've come to the reality that if the average agent nationally is indeed only selling 3, let's be the company that helps them do that 3 extraordinarily well and makes them feel that they were comfortable doing it. So how much time does it really take to do the 3? I think it all starts with, hey, here's the 3. The reality is you could actually do that very quickly if you'd back into this concept of DPPO. In other words, D stands for database. So if you're looking to do 3 deals a year and you're the average agent nationally, you say to yourself, how many people do I need in my database to yield an outcome of 3 sides a year? And 3 sides a year, Patrick, for a part-time agent could be quite a bit of money and could change the family lifestyle quite a bit, or could be the savings for college for somebody like Kate and Laura, etc. So I think that North Star is here's the 3, and then how many D hours am I spending actually creating database? So see, in Leslie's case, let's say Leslie's our guinea pig in this case because she was in the hot seat. She goes out there and she says, well, I want to be a senior specialist. So the very first step is how many people can she turn into a living conversation? First time I've ever said that term, but I like it. It's a living conversation. Everything's dead until we go out there and get it and bring it to life. And that conversation is all we're looking for, right? So that's the creation of bringing a contact into the database. The P, which could easily be F for follow-up, is the phone calls and the emails and the text, all that conversation that subsequently happens after I've brought them into the database. I'm not saying that a conversation, Patrick, outside the database or marketing outside doesn't get there. That's all included in the D. The ultimate result in the D and the intention when I first built the formula was the sense of understanding where the heck's your book of business. If I'm to come to any of you and say, where are your contacts? If you came to me and said that, Laura and I would walk over to Infusionsoft and would print out whatever you wanted to see. We'd print out all the names of past clients who are accelerant for our business, current clients or current closings that we're creating past clients from, current clients we're trying to move along. You get the point, right? That's the sense of creation of prospecting, building D database. Next is it takes an enormous amount of phone calls, now emails, texts, all of that to stay in contact in a continuous way. So the P standing for phone calls because that's the most powerful, right? The more that you can talk to them, they can hear your voice, your up and down tone. We're hiding behind too much of the text and emails, but that constant calling, not to ask, are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? But to say, hey, it's me, your resource. You're in my database. I'm calling you because I'm your resource. I thought you'd like to know this. Okay? Hey, by the way, how's it coming along? Yep, I'm still on track for June. Wonderful. I'll be touching base with you, but let me know if you need anything in the meantime. Now we get into that, that concept of presentation where once they're in the database, we really have to continuously understand we have to present at some point in time very clearly to them what our value is. So I know I'm going through the DPPO with you, what you understand, but it's just a simple formula to work backwards to say, look, if you're not presenting to anybody your infographic, your courses, why you're doing what you're doing, even if you went out early and then you have to keep following up, if you're not getting there, then guess what? You're not making enough phone calls and follow-ups and texts and emails. And if you don't have enough people to do every day, then you're just not prospecting enough and creating database. And prospecting can be via marketing, telemarketing, shaking hands, all of that. So it's all about that North Star, but then being disciplined to say, if I'm not out in the field writing or accepting offers, then I don't have enough people I'm presenting to do so with me. If I don't have enough opportunities for presentation, I'm not making enough phone calls, emails, and text follow-up. And if I don't have anybody to do that to, then I'm just not building my database, and I just got to get started with square one. So how much time does that really take? A part-timer is going to be a gear shift for you and for I push on the agents as the owner to say, look, let me give you some help building up your database. Here's 50 business cards. Give them away in a conversation, but remember, you're giving them away because you're trying to create continuous relationship and build database. So ask for the person's information by saying, look, if you give me your contact info, here's mine. I'll put you into MLS. I'll send you some sold properties. I'll show you what the money buys. I'll show you what your fellow sellers got. So I think, Patrick, it's about just engaging them in so much around the D first. I think the other three follow, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah. My problem right now is, people's databases are overwhelmingly full, and just getting people to find the time to, dig in there and clean it up. First of all, make sure that, everyone is where they're supposed to be. The tags are correct. They're receiving the materials that they need to be receiving. And the good news for our agents, if anybody's on the call, again, we're really driving this home, but, there's so many opportunities here to build your database. We're one of those offices who is offering leads. We're also, I'm helping people, anybody who wants to call expireds. I've got a full campaign built out, and the expireds are there, ready to be called. Several people on our team have been really awesome lately about doing our open houses and doing other agents' open houses, and I think that's just a tremendous way to continue to build that out. But I do think that the DPPO 20 is just so powerful because if you're finding a lag in any part of your business, you just kind of work backwards to the previous, section of that and think, okay, well, I just need to boost this to get, to the next step, get to the next, evolution. So, I think you're right, Andy. Just continuing to remind everybody of it, and then maybe just checking in with people. Hey, how's it going? With your time blocking, have you had a good week? That kind of stuff.
Yep. For sure. Well, look, again, it's like the sales training call and any of these training calls. It's somebody has to care enough to be enthusiastic to drag the rest of the bunch out of bed some days, right? That's just what it is. Energy ebbs and it flows. But then it becomes, after that energy moment, it becomes they want to know what to do. See, the reason I never let up on Leslie today was because really she's exasperated. So energy is sucked out, the wind is out of her sails because every knucklehead expired that hangs up on her demoralizes her, right? It's demoralizing. Business is difficult. I've never seen it become more challenging. But it's how we deal with that rejection in the digital age that really matters more than it ever has before. Because a lot of people are taking that rejection so personally, like we always do. We all take, that loss so personally, but it's become more important than ever before, right? Than ever before to make sure we're resilient in that moment, that we keep coming at it, that we keep being resourceful. Because if you can swim upstream through all that digital age noise and exasperation, you're going to find that there are still quite a few people hoping you'll do that. In other words, they're waiting for you to really demonstrate a true differentiation more than ever before. Because every knucklehead in the world can sit there and make a promise that's empty. And so, you know why we're all upset, right, Patrick? Because we keep getting lied to by marketers more and more and more because the internet's made it easy for anybody to get at us. So that by the time the real, genuine person like Leslie, like you, like your agents, get to them, they're exasperated, right? I mean, the level of exasperation is so high, but yet salespeople are confusing that with something that they're doing wrong or that they're not made out for this. There's a lot of confusion out there. So what I say is trust the formulaic approach to delivering your value. Trust it. Just keep saying, I am a professional who delivers this in this formula to protect you. And you can have it for free. I will continue to educate you so that you truly and genuinely believe in all of this noise of the environment that we live in now. And all of these lies that you're getting told you, I have a buyer for that. That's what most people who pick up the phone and say unexpired. I've got a buyer for that. Or that agent was no good. Like, we can't stop the race to the bottom. So let's be different. Let's go and try to rise to the top by leveling up this level of free. And I think, Patrick, not only does it build the D, not only do those activities build the D, it actually, in the long run, is a very difficult company, brand, human being to compete with. Because the reputation goes round like, in all this noise, you can trust Leslie. You can trust Patrick. They're genuine people, and they do what they say they're going to do. I think that's becoming more and more of a unique selling proposition than ever before. Stop the race to the bottom. That makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to one of my agents yesterday about an open house that he had held, and he was talking to a buyer who was working with Redfin, and the buyer was frustrated because whenever he wants to show a house, or whenever he wants to tour a house, he doesn't get to work with the agent that he actually originally spoke to. You know, you plug in the house to the app, and some other person that you've never met before comes out and shows you the home. And they were kind of joking about how it's sort of like Uber for real estate. It's kind of like this faceless, relationshipless approach to real estate, and our agent Andy, whom you know, did a great job of just pointing out that when you're making this type of heavy financial decision, you want to have somebody that you trust and somebody that will really take your best interests to heart, and having somebody that barely knows you handling that for you is it's not worth the amount that kickback that you get of however a couple grand. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think it's a strong point, and I think that is where we all bring a ton of value to the table. It's just a matter of being able to communicate that to our customers.
Well, and again, that's the next thing about social. At the mastermind level, I'm coaching an enormous amount of social media management. I guess strategy is the best way that I would put it. And as I keep saying to people, I think the most important thing that when somebody vets you or looks at your digital footprint, they're trying to see what kind of a professional you are. So instead of fretting, going out there and getting lead generation off of social, I think we're missing the point. I think where people are living on social so openly, and if you all are my friend on my profile, you're going to see my humorous side of me. That's where I live. I'm having fun there. I want to live my life with my kids, all of you. I want to see a smile. I'm going to live there generally. I'm not going to worry about being so corporately cut out of some cardboard box, right? I'm going to live there authentically so that when people come and vet me, they can see, guy seems to have a sense of humor, and then once in a while he shares over one of these things. A lot of people say to me, what's that sales training thing that you do? Is that what you do? Right? They don't know. So we broach it because I become approachable, and then they can move off into the business side of it because once in a while I'm over there doing that. Right? And I think that's isn't that the way we all want to live? Because most people don't want to be sold. But the bigger thing, Patrick, I think, is why transparency matters. Transparency with who you really are. Like, you're always posting diving pictures and all that. And I love all that stuff. That tells me who you are. But now if I want to see if you are equally there, I know you're human. Okay, this guy's not a stuffed shirt. He's a human being with real people in his life. But now I'm curious, is he also the type of guy that can shift into a professional lane? So now I'm going to go off into the Realty classroom. I'm going to go off into the Griffin Realty Group or this head stuff thing that this guy does. Is he a professional over there, and how does he think out loud in that context? It's a living, breathing resume where the digital age is really, in its first and most important role, it's to expose to the world who we genuinely are in that context, right? So the more that you're willing to do that, you just need to know the lanes there, right? Don't pollute your personal profile if that's where people want to indulge in their true friendships and voyeurists. Even if you're lightly attached on a profile, I want to know more about how you live your life, right? I'm interested. So then we go over into professional. I don't want you to be gratuitously saying, hey, call me and I'll give you this. I'm not ready for that. I want to know what you know in that context because I now trust you a little bit more as a human, right? You're a human. And now you're saying, hey, did you know that it still requires an enormous amount of attention to detail when it comes to negotiation? I know that a lot of people are offering a discounted commission, and that's wonderful. But I'm not going to race to the bottom. What I do is I do this and that and this for my clients, right? And I want to share with you. You should know that that's what to do. Oh, if you want to know how to do it, feel free to call me, right? See, it's much more about that journey. It's about the journey that we take somebody along that beam of light, and we're just educating them, trusting that prospect, that database now becomes that wonderful place where I can be relevant in a professional context when you need me. I don't forget you, but I don't pester you either. So Patrick, if that's 3 times a year, our agents just need to know that. You just want to be there with that professionalism 3 times. So Courtney, for example, and by the way, you're going to have to deal with this with millennium, age kids like my kids. I mean, I know Steffi's at the tail end, but she's just accepted a weekend job she's ecstatic about with Allure magazine, right? She gets to be a weekend editor writing articles, social media oriented articles, and she's ecstatic. Whereas back 10 years ago, you'd have been saying, oh, that sounds like a weird part-time job. That's the new world we live in, is that everybody's going to be treated in that micro place first. You might end up being macro, but we're going to live a lot of micro things. So what's that mean to you and I? You as the manager of Cantu Group has to understand that the micro worker agent is always been a real thing, but now let's just put it on the table. Hey, you're going to do 3 deals a year because you're busy playing mom? You're going to do 3 deals a year because you're busy with your corporate 9-to-5 job and the only way you could live is that you have that? Wonderful. I just want to help you be as professional as you can in those 3 times that you do this. So Patrick, I think that's why it really becomes important to almost slow it down, which is really tough to do when Cantu and Griffin and, Lee, all of us, Gail, etc., any of the top producers in this group, we can't even wrap our mind around that because we're saying, well, that would never work for us. Right, because we're chips all in making our living doing this and we couldn't afford to do it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, I think we're doing a good job. I can honestly say that I think we're doing a pretty damn good job of that right now, providing our people with the materials that they need in order to market to their spheres.
That's why.
And giving them the opportunities to reach out to people that they don't know if that's something that they have time to do. I'm feeling really good about what we're offering people, and I'm excited to yield the results.
Yeah, and I think, like I said to Leslie, and I'll leave the call on this, salespeople have to be more diligent, resourceful, resilient than ever before. They just have to be. I just see so much exasperation and so many people just quitting things and just thinking that somewhere on the other side it's going to be easier. That's not the new reality, right? The new reality is this is the Wild West of small business, especially. Even big business models are under pressure. We are overwhelmed, and you can see it in lead gen, the atrophy in internet lead gen, the difficulty in getting somebody to trust you off the internet. It is just, that's the internet demanding that we are more transparent and helpful to the world. And those that can pick a lane, be strategic, so that strategically you're giving away in your lane the best information. You become known as the trusted advisor for free, and you have to own that lane before you can ever become the one that gets paid. It's a real tough thing to comprehend, deal with, and accept. I understand that. But I'm telling you, I think people are going to get really hurt who don't embrace that. Everybody who's been out there just absolutely addicted to lead gen and assuming that would go on forever are learning the hard way right now. See? Told you so. Lead gen is a good means to an end still, where you can get the lead and you can bring it in that database and build relationship by giving away in your funnel, in your worlds. But if you keep jumping up and down on people saying, I want, we just don't live in that world anymore. You could get away with it pre-digital age, Pat, but you can't anymore. You'll get punished for it, right?
Absolutely.
By the way, that goes for your agents. So just embrace, ask them. We want good people at Cantu Group. That's what we want, tell them, right? So what is your North Star? What is it that you want? Do you want to do 3 deals? Do you want to do 5 deals? You want to do 10 deals? You want to be a top producer? We have a seat for good people because the thing we're excited about, which is what you referenced, we have a strategy that we believe is expandable from 1 deal. We can help you do 1 deal with your best friend this year, and you could be fabulous. Just understand, keep your overhead low because you're going to still have to pay you 12 months worth of dues. There's the splits with us to help you. Just understand what that's going to bring you and be realistic. But we will help you get to that North Star. And you know what happens then. Once they gain the confidence on the 1 to 3, now they get excited. Now there's belief. Now they believe they can do more, and that mindset becomes one of growth that's contagious. Hey, Pat, last year I really enjoyed doing those 3, and I'm not loving my job, and I don't want to really keep doing overtime on the weekends. So I'm not thinking about quitting the job, but I'm thinking about giving up overtime. What kind of a plan could you help me to go from 3 to 5? Because I really only need 2 deals to replace it. Now we're growing. And the good news is, it's not like you have to give them some, introduction to a completely new program. You said, look, you do more of the same. You do more, now you have weekends free, more open houses. You give them better, materials. You dive in deeper to the conversation. You extract their names better, right? See, Pat, it's so expandable if we will only embrace, all of us. Let's do the next deal the best that we can. And that's the thing that you memorialize and practice more of yourself and can help others. Cool?
Cool.
All right. Good job, everybody. Well, a little overtime here today because I missed Campfire yesterday. Like I said, for Campfire members, I'll do another bonus call next Thursday, and we'll be back to sales training. But go out. Don't get exasperated. I get it. Attendance on these things ebbs and flows because people say, oh, I got that dialed in. I'm there. No, nobody does. The wind keeps blowing in our face of the digital age. You will need to be bulletproof and resilient. Don't ever stop working on your business. Don't ever say you're all set. And I highly recommend you all go out there and get a copy of Carol Dweck, Dweck, her book, Mindset. Read it. Bill Gates recommended it. So does Griffin. That's 2 top recommendations, right? All right, everybody. See you later. Have a great weekend. Go practice this stuff. Thanks for participating. You bet.
Thank you, Danny.
You bet. Thanks, everybody.